Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chase and this is All Things Random. Today we are looking at something we don't normally look at on this channel, and that is a luxury woman's watch. Today we are looking at the Cartier Tank Solo. Now, why did I decide to finally do a review on a watch that my fiance has had for nearly a year now? Well, that's because I came across a wonderful alternative that I will do in a video in the future. Not the next video, but probably the video after that. And that is going to be the Casio tank. The reason why I did that is because this is mostly an affordable watch channel where, it aims to help the average everyday person who can't afford a luxury timepiece. Now, I have myself luxury timepieces. I have my Rolex Kermit here. I have a Rolex Hulk back in my watch case back there. And I do have a Tissot. I have a couple of Ventis. I do have luxury watches, but I worked really hard and I had to save a lot of money for those watches. And in fact, something like this Rolex Kermit, I bought this right after a deployment over 10 years ago, and I'll never sell it because I can't afford it at the price point that it is going for now. So when I bought it at retail, right, for I think $8,400 back in 2010, 2011, I look at it now and I could sell it and make quite a profit, but if I ever want it again, then I could never bring myself to spend twice as much money on a watch that I got for half as much. I just decided to sell it and try to make a quick buck. So I do have luxury watches. I also have very affordable watches. I have Pagani design, I have Siga design, I have Feast. I have a lot of these other affordable watches. So the reason I'm doing this review is because sometimes people wonder what to get for their spouses. And if they're into watches, then maybe this will be right up your alley. And if they want something more affordable, then maybe the Casio tank that I do a review on in the future will be right up their alley as well. Now, the reason I decided to do a review on this Cartier, again, I don't have a lot of luxury reviews, watch reviews on this channel, and I didn't even have my finger on the pulse of Cartier because it just wasn't in my wheelhouse until my fiance told me one of the watches she's always aspired for has been the two-tone gold and stainless steel Cartier tank. I didn't do that. I got her the stainless steel because there's a price difference of about twice as much even in the used market, and I'm just not a big fan of the two-tone. Selfish reasons, I think they're ugly, even though she may like them, and also selfish reasons that it was just a little too expensive at the time, and we'll talk about price towards the end of this video. But when I saw the Cartier, I was like, man, let me do a little more. I know about Cartier. I know Cartier is mostly a jewelry company that also does watches. They do a lot of high-end jewelry, a lot of high-end diamond jewelry, and they also do watches on the side. So they're not a watch brand. They are a watch brand, but they're a jewelry brand that does watches. So they were never really in my wheelhouse when it came to getting one of their watches. Now, that being said, I am looking at getting a Cartier Tank Santos, possibly as a wedding watch to match this watch for the wedding. Am I going to do that? I really don't know. The prices are astronomical, even on the used market. $5,000 isn't something that everybody can aspire to, especially when you're paying $20,000 for a wedding. So we'll kind of see what road I go on, and I'll keep you guys informed. So let's talk about this watch that I have here in my hand. The Cartier Tank Santos, specifically, this is reference number 3170, and it is the stainless steel ladies quartz dress watch. Now, the case diameter on this is 24 millimeters in width by 31 millimeters in height, and you can see that the moment you kind of let that link fall, the link on the bracelet, the case itself is the entire lug to lug. So if you guys are used to seeing the lug to lug It is going to be the entire diameter of the case. The longest part of the case is going to be 31. The shortest part of the case is going to be 24. Now, the thickness of this watch, because it is a quartz, is going to be 5.6 millimeters. So it is very dainty and elegant and beautiful, especially on the wrist of someone that you love. Covering the dial is, of course, a sapphire crystal, and this is a solid stainless steel 316L stainless steel case, which is what you'd expect. Now, the case is a little odd when it comes to its shape. It's kind of like a cushion style case, very rounded edges, very comfortable on the wrist. At least that's what I'm told by my fiance. And it does have two types of finishing. It does have brushing at the top and the bottom, but then high polish along the rest of the case and the sides of the face. You can see that where the bracelet comes over with the lugs, that is brushed right below it to kind of match in with those lugs that are also finished in high polished and brushing. And then you see that the rest of the case is high polished. Most dress watches are going to be high polished, even though they are fingerprint magnets and magnets for scratches, and you'll see that on this watch. This watch is very well loved and very well worn, and you'll see that as we do the video. The crown and cabochon are in excellent condition. The cabochon is the blue unfaceted jewel that is on the outside of the crown that is very indicative of Cartier. That's on all of their watches as far as I know. That is one of those things that watchmakers and watch companies will do that will be their signature, and that is basically their signature. Every Cartier watch has one of those, and if you look in the used market, you'll find that sometimes those tend to be chipped or cracked. This one, thank God, I was able to find it in immaculate condition. And again, I bought this on the used market because if you're going to buy Cartier, buy used, don't buy new. And I'll explain that just a little later. Inside the watch, I explained already, it's a quartz movement. It's the Cartier 57 movement, and it contains 4 jewels. One of the things I really love about this movement is if you watch that minute hand, it's clear that it doesn't just slowly sweep like a normal cheap quartz watch, but in fact, when it hits that minute, boom, it ticks over, and it's extremely functional as a mechanical quartz movement. When you look at the higher quality quartz movements, a lot of chronographs, on the cheaper end, as the minute hand of the chronograph sweeps down, you'll look at the subdial, and the subdial will slowly move over, right? Because everything is connected on the gear train. And it's a little more difficult to create a movement, whether it's mecha quartz, or mechanical, that actually holds that place until it's time for it to tick over once. A lot of watch companies don't do that. Higher end watch companies will do that because it shows the quality of the watch. The bracelet on this watch is, of course, solid stainless steel. It does have a very nice brushed center link that goes throughout the entire bracelet with high polished links that are H style that really complement those brush finishing. One of the things that I really don't like about this watch is going to be the butterfly clasp. Now, most butterfly clasps offer double pushers on each side, a way to disengage the friction lock or the lock mechanism of the clasp. When you have something like a friction lock, which is what this is, over time, that friction lock is bound to wear down. There are no buttons on it. There is no way to release it. So you just have to pull it out. And when you pull it out, you'll feel it release. And then when you push it in, you'll feel it engage. Over time, this is going to wear out and you're going to have to replace it. This is one of those things that could be avoided, but it's not avoided. And I don't understand why. I get that sometimes you don't want double pushers on the butterfly clasp because maybe it's uncomfortable on the wrist. However, I think that this is something that was overlooked during the design that hopefully in the future they'll remedy in their newer watches. Because this is a dress watch, most dress watches have at least 30 meters of water resistance, and this is the exact same. This watch only offers 30 meters of water resistance, and if you're interested in water resistance, I will leave a link to a video right here, because 30 meters of water resistance does not mean 30 meters of water resistance. It means don't even get it wet in the rain. The dial on this watch is where everything is when it comes to Cartier. Now you could say the crown is Cartier, you can say the case shape being the tank is Cartier, but really the dial is where it's at. This dial specifically looks like a white, but it's not pure white. It's more like a light cream with those Roman numerals around the indices. Again, that's very indicative of Cartier, are those Roman numerals. It's very hard to even think of a watch from Cartier that don't have that signature Roman numerals for the indices. Now, every piece of printing is done perfectly on this watch, which you'd expect for a watch that costs many thousands of dollars. And one of the things that will show you a fake from a authentic Cartier is the fact that it does have micro printing, and this one specifically has micro printing on the 10, on the X of the 10. You can see that it says Cartier in micro printing, and it is flawless. It is crisp and clear, and a lot of the fake watches or a lot of the replica watches, they try to do the micro printing, but it's never perfect. It's always blurry, or the lines aren't good. And this is one of the things that if you're interested in whether it's a replica or an authentic watch, is just to really dive into how well the dial is done. Now, could you replace the dial of a replica with the dial of an authentic Cartier and then it kind of avoids all that? Sure, you could, but are you really going to spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds on a replica and then hundreds and hundreds and hundreds on a dial and then take it apart or take it to someone who's going to replace it? I mean, on a reputable watchmaker is not going to replace the dial of a replica watch with an authentic watch, because that's just not their style, right? They have their name that they need to fall back on, and they're not going to work on replica watches. So that's one of the things that if you are really interested in diving into sort of subtle cues of whether or not your Cartier could be authentic or could be a replica, one of the things is the microprinting on the dial. One of the things that I noticed on the dial that I had no idea, even years and years and years of reviewing watches on YouTube, I had no idea what a watchmaker's 4 was until I came across a shorts video on YouTube myself. And then I had to look, and sure enough, the watchmaker's 4 is there. Now, the watchmaker's 4 is at the 4 o'clock indice. You can see it's not the classic Roman numeral 4 of the I and the V. It is 4 eyes. Now, this is not correct necessarily when it comes to Roman numerals. However, there are some arguments about where the watchmaker's 4 came from. If you actually do a Google search, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago, before there were actually watches, they used the watchmakers 4 in certain cases, and then the standard 4 in other cases. It's become the watchmaker's 4 because it creates more symmetry on the dial. If you actually count out how many indices or markers are on one half of the dial to the other half of the dial, the only way to make each individual indice match the other one is to add 2 additional indices, which are basically the watchmaker's 4, right? Instead of 1 I and 1 V, it's 4 eyes, which make each side completely symmetrical, which is very pleasing to the eye. One of the things that Cartier is also known for is their blued hands. These things look great in the sunlight. They're very hard to see in the light of a studio. However, when you get outside, they are bright and brilliant in the face, and they contrast the dial extremely nice. It's one of those elegant touches that only Cartier does. This watch is classically elegant and can go with nearly anything. This one, again, uses a solid stainless steel bracelet with the fold-over clasp, but can be replaced with a leather band. Now, that's one of the things that my fiance really wants. She loves this watch on a leather strap, a black leather strap instead of the stainless steel bracelet. My recommendation is always go with the bracelet, the stock bracelet, and then get an aftermarket leather strap. Some people would argue differently. They say, hey, save your money up front, except that if you ever want to go with the stainless steel bracelet, it's going to be much more expensive to get the stainless steel bracelet separate from the watch than with the watch and get a leather band later. Now, I personally don't sell 17 millimeter, width leather bands on chase straps, so I sadly can't use a chase strap on this watch, but I did order an aftermarket leather strap for this, and it comes in just a couple weeks. You're going to save yourself a lot of money just ordering that aftermarket and getting the stainless steel bracelet with the watch. I'm telling you, this is one of those things that is going to help you in the end, but it's hard to see up front when you're laying down that cash. Now let's talk about the cash for this watch. This watch is not cheap by any means. Now a brand new Cartier tank is going to cost you, I don't know, $6,000, $7,000 at an authorized dealer, and that's if you go with the ladies version and not the men's version of the Cartier tank. Again, I told you that I want to get the Cartier Santos for my watch for the wedding, and an automatic Cartier that's on the used market is going to cost me $4,500, $5,000, and brand new it's going to be twice that much, right? If you look at this watch specifically, I was able to pick up for about $2,500 on the used market, which is on the more affordable end of the used watches. These go anywhere from $2,200 to $3,500 depending on how worn the watch is. I did my research and I did my due diligence, and I didn't just pull the trigger on one watch that I thought was good. I went through and I analyzed each and every picture. I contacted the seller, and this thing had almost no surface scratches on it. Not now. Now it's been worn quite a bit, but it had almost no surface scratches on it, and it was nearly brand new, and it came with all the Cartier materials, all the papers, the boxes of the original purchaser, and I got it for, $2,500. So do your research. I don't think it's worth buying a Cartier brand new, because it's like buying a brand new car. You buy a brand new car and you drive it off the lot and suddenly it's worth 30% less. It's similar when you buy a Cartier. A Cartier is not a Rolex, right? A Rolex is one of those things right now in the market that if you wanted to buy one at retail and you had a good relationship with your authorized dealer and they finally sell you one at retail and you spend $8,500, you can turn around and sell it for $15,000, right? It's not the same way with Cartier, right? So you're better that if you want one, just buy it used. And if you want to take it to a watchmaker and have it serviced, right? Let's just say you buy a Cartier tank Santos, right, for $5,000 instead of $9,000, and you spend a few $100s and you send it off to Delray Watch, because I love Federico at Federico Talks Watches. They own Delray Watch. I've actually had my Rolex sent to them and serviced, because they're very, very cost affordable when it comes to their servicing, and I could send an automatic Cartier to them for $400. They could go over it, and they could make it nearly new with the movement and the servicing. And I could always do a little extra and pay just a little bit more to have maybe the surface buffed out if I wanted it to look new. I'm not really a big fan of polishing cases, because I think that it takes away from the sharp lines. But if you look at something like this Cartier anyway, the lines are rounded, everything is smooth. If you wanted to buy something used for $2,000 and then pay $600 for a service and a polishing with a reputable watch maker, then I think that it's going to save you about $4,000 in your pocket. Anyway, what do you guys think about this video? Do you like more of the high-end watch reviews? The thing that I'm going to be comparing this to is this. Like I said, this is the Casio tank. This is the Casio tank. This thing looks very similar, right, to the Cartier. It is on a leather strap. The leather strap is not true alligator, but this watch costs less than $50. And if you love the look, but you need more of the affordable price point, then you could always go with something cheaper. And Casio, well, that's a more reasonable watch. So keep a lookout for that review in the future, along with a comparison video. I also have the academic on the desk from JF Watches. If you guys go over to I Like Watches or I Like Watches 2, then you'll see more on the academic. I have that on my desk. That review will come out next week. Once I hit 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to give away the Exciton watch, the Exciton dive watch that I bought from JF Watches, from I Like Watches and I Like Watches 2. And I'm going to give that away to one of you guys. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, because I'm releasing a video every single day. There's going to be a short. Every 2 to 4 days, there's going to be a full review. So make sure you guys are hitting that notification bell so you can be notified when I drop all of these videos. Let's get to 10,000 subscribers. We're almost there, and I will be able to do a giveaway on that Exciton watch. I will see you in the next one.